Mario Augusto Medeiros da Silva is a sociologist, but he's not only a sociologist, he's also a writer and he's a curator. He has a bachelor's degree in social sciences from the University of Campinas, a master in sociology from the same university, and a PhD in sociology. And his doctoral thesis was about a descoberta do insólito, literatura negra e literatura periférica no Brasil, 1960-2000. I had the pleasure to know Mario already in 2023 when he was a fellow of MECILA in Sao Paulo, and I had the honor of serving as the German director of MECILA in Sao Paulo, and I not only visited the exhibition we have been talking about in the other in the workshop, but also I assisted the presentation of his last book, A Descoberta do Insólito, Literatura Negra, Literatura Periférica no Brasil. And I can tell you that there were a lot of people who were waiting for him to throw the books on, but he sold me books. I can tell you. And here's other publications, just to mention a book from 2020, Numa Esquina do Mundo, São Paulo, Gosto de Amor, from 2019, and then there are a lot of articles also in peer-reviewed journals and book chapters, but I don't want to steal the time for his lecture today. And after the lecture, as always, we will have the possibility also of comments, of questions, and as we are here at the American Institute defenders of multilingualism, the lecture will be in English, then the discussion and the question also may be in, well, of course in English, but also in Spanish, in Portuguese, and Portuguese. We don't speak German. We speak German, but normally in this type of moments we don't speak German. So, but you have a lot of possibilities. But
well, as I was saying, I will present some aspects of my research in the MECILA, and I've written something about it to my working paper in the MECILA series. It is the number 69 from 2024. But I will also present some pictures of this research on social memory and anti-racism in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. My lecture on social memory, conviviality, and contemporary anti-racism in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro will analyze actions of newly active social movements that in this series, have been engaged in guiding, disputing, and defending social memory politics for territories that have been historically, effectively, and politically understood as Black and indigenous. Marked by the violence of slavery, colonial torments, discrimination, and racism, even in the Republican experience, the Cais do Valongo, Valongo Wharf, and Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, the Pretos Novos Cemetery in Rio de Janeiro, the Largo da Forca, the Gallows Square, Capela dos Aflitos, the Chapel of the Afflicted, and the Saracura region in Bexiga, all in São Paulo, have been considered places of memory and where the Black and indigenous populations have demanded rights based on the historically occupied territories in these cities where they are located, being object of cultural heritage policies and disputes with the real estate market, the state, and other public and private agents. Therefore, I am interested in analyzing how such demands have developed in recent years, their scope, and limits on the political agenda of discussion about the struggle for rights in cities, the anti-racist struggle, and debates about collective memory and rights, observed according to the demand for tangible and intangible heritage policies. The debates on the meanings of the notion of conviviality is also a component of the disputes testing their potential for a study of this nature. And I forgot to start my watch here. Sorry. I am committed to investigating the articulations between social memory, anti-racism, and social trauma through disputes around memory preservation policies. Brazilian society with a slaveholding past had different governments and social institutions that organized various public images about the non-existence of racism, the disappearance and assimilation of the Black and indigenous populations, the practice of racial democracy and harmonious coexistence between their races, to deny racial prejudice, discriminatory behaviors, and structural racism as a practice of power, producing inequalities related to gender, race, and class, and obstacles to civil, social, and political rights. While the white ruling class sought to create these images, the different Black and anti-racist movements continuously opposed them, with agenda proposing rights and emancipation of Brazilian society. Racism is a social relationship of the exercise of power that in contemporary Brazil allows for systematic violation of the rights of the Black population and native people. Confirmed by official data on homicides and also the killing of women according to skin color, violence toward Black youth suffering, high mortality, the massacre of native people, indigenous people, and Quilombola people in the struggle for their lands, unequal access to the right to education, health, decent housing, and justice system. However, there has been much less discussion about the articulation between racism, trauma, and social memory, and the struggles to resignify the existence in the present of painful memories, giving them a restitutive, active significance in the present time. The first case, this is a picture of the Cais do Valongo in 1220, but the Cais do Valongo is a place in Rio de Janeiro that we know since the 1722 and has functioned as a wharf from 1722 up to 1830. The bibliography on the Cais do Valongo and also the Cemitério dos Pretos Novos that we are going to see soon is quite interesting and connect as it is based on the materiality of the discovery of the place where before there was one of the most important ports in the restitution of slave trafficking in the Americas, at a time of a urban reorganization in Rio de Janeiro, for historiographic debates and action of Black movements in conjunction with researchers. The bibliography on the Cais do Valongo and Cemitério dos Pretos Novos is quite interesting and connects, as it's based on the materiality of the discovery of the place where before there was one of the most important ports in the restitution of slave trafficking in the Americas, at a time of urban reorganization in Rio de Janeiro, for historiographic debates and action of Black movements in conjunction with researchers of historic and social science for cultural heritage actions. The rediscovery of the wharf confirms the knowledge contained in the specialized bibliography and that generations of Black movements kept in the collective memory, transmitting information. There was in that region a territory, a circuit of the African and Black experience in Brazil. In 2018, the Cais do Valongo was named as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which was intended to have an effect on its surrounding area to encourage memory preservation policies. This has been the subject of disputes with social movements and researchers denouncing the government's disregard for the protection of the spaces. Municipal, state, and federal governments are responsible for taking care of this heritage, but in fact, they have done a little in that regard. In 2016, the Cais do Valongo was proposed to UNESCO for the status of cultural heritage for being, according to a historian and diplomat, a Brazilian historian and diplomat called Alberto da Costa Silva, I quote, "the most complete slavery memory site known," end of quote. The estimates for the reception of enslaved Africans in the Cais do Valongo are around 700,000 people. The importance of archaeological research will be recurrent in all this process studied, because in addition to legal requirements, when it comes to the research of tangible and intangible heritage in similar case, it concerns the possibility of highlighting places of memory and the conviviality of those social groups studied, their cultural and political experience, their religiosity, and the daily construction that space in the city and despite it. In addition, another element of material culture that maintains the memory of the sufferings experienced by the enslaved and cruel examples of conviviality in slavery are precisely the remains of the Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, also in Rio de Janeiro, and very close to the Cais do Valongo location. The entire region of Valongo was at the service of the slave machine, being simultaneously a place of arrival, exhibition, trade, precarious treatment of health, and death for the newly disembarked people coming from African ports. Surviving slaves, slave owners, and traders, freed black people, mestizos, whites of varied social strata, all lived for generations with the experience of life and death in that place, overtly, daily, for decades. Similarly, that entire region was eventually buried with the aim of erasing the memory of a daily experience with which the population of Rio de Janeiro lived and connected nationally and internationally. The slave trade articulated with international capitalism and supplying the domestic market with forced exploitation of labor. In 1996, this history came forcefully to light, and again, the dead without a grave claimed symbolically and concretely the dignity of memory and the responsibility of the present time. Active until 1831, it is considered to have been the largest slave cemetery in the Americas, in which 20,000 up to 30,000 people were estimated to have been buried. Deactivated, the cemetery was covered by the urban grid. Only in 1996, due to the works being carried out in this house, the number 36 of Pedro Ernesto Street, the Pretos Novos cemeteries, the Pretos Novos Cemitério, Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, was finally discovered and its location revealed. O Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, in this region called Gamboa, in Rio de Janeiro, was registered as an archaeological site by IPHAN, the Instituto de Preservação Histórica e Artístico Nacional, National Institute for Heritage Preservation in Brazil, and has since been the object of research and, above all, has driven the preservation of the memory of Afro-descendants in the region. The bibliography and public interest about the Pretos Novos Cemitério, the Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, is growing fast, but with one of the most important works about the Cemitério dos Pretos Novos being the book of Júlio César Pereira dissertation, the Júlio César Pereira dissertation that became the book A Flor da Terra, o Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, no Rio de Janeiro. It was published in 2014. Black movements led to the establishment in 2005 of the Instituto dos Pretos Novos, and Júlio César Pereira is the president of the Instituto dos Pretos Novos in Rio de Janeiro, protecting an archaeological site and becoming a place of memory of enormous importance. The Instituto dos Pretos Novos. In this house, so there is a sede, a base, the site of the Cemitério dos Pretos Novos is the same site where is the Instituto dos Pretos Novos in Gamboa. The third case I would like to show you is the Capela dos Aflitos, the Chapel of Afflicted in São Paulo. Similarly, but with a smaller volume of research on the dimension of disputes of meanings, of collective memory, there is also the history of the Igreja dos Enforcados and the Capela dos Aflitos and in the Liberdade neighborhood. In 1779, the cemetery close to the place where is this chapel was consecrated next to the chapel of the Nossa Senhora dos Aflitos. The place had already functioned as a space for torture in São Paulo since 1775, and the cemetery operated until 1858. In that territory, enslaved Africans, indigenous people, prostituted women, and people considered criminals were subjected to torture, sentenced to hanging, and buried. The case of Corporal Francisco José das Chagas, as named as Chaguinhas, and soldier José Joaquim Cotindiba, identified as black men, both from the 1st Battalion of Hunters of Santos, sentenced in 1821 to death on the gallows after leading a mutiny for non-payment, gave rise simultaneously to the name of the neighborhood and to a popular cult in the chapel, which exists even today. The gallows are said to have broken 3 times, and the public watching the execution began to shout, "Freedom, liberdade." Nevertheless, they were still executed and buried in the cemetery near that church, and from then on, it was recorded that people requesting thanks to the souls of the afflicted in honor of Chaguinhas knocked 3 times on the door of the church or on the wood of the velarium to fulfill their religious obligations or make their requests and declare their intentions on pieces of paper. The black population in the place, including the setting of violence, it was the location of the São Paulo place of public punishments of the city in the 18th and 19th centuries, since the 17th century, is well documented. This place was called Largo do Pelourinho, known as such in 1610, and would become Largo 7 de Setembro, September 70 Square, after the independence in 1822, and later Largo da Liberdade, Liberty Square in the 19th century, and the transformations of one of the oldest territories of São Paulo, especially in the 18th century, from a distant passageway into a neighborhood that gradually becomes incorporated into the central region of the city. This is the same chapel, but it is encompassed by different buildings and different streets around the chapel, and is compressed by the growth of the city. Once again, in both the imperial and republic periods, in 2 different cities, we sought to bury an undesirable social memory and replace it with another. And I would like you to pay attention to these red globes and lanterns because it's very important in another action of erasure of memory. So we sought to bury an undesirable social memory and replace it with another. With the arrival of Japanese immigration in 1908, the region is occupied by this immigratory group, and Liberdade, this place, gradually becomes known as the Oriental Neighborhood. This even had the support of the government in 1969 during the military dictatorship in Brazil, when a plan for the orientalization of the neighborhood was announced, with white lanterns and red poles, as you can see, that became characteristic of the main streets of Liberdade. The intention, with the support of the Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese commercial communities, was to shape something similar to a Chinatown in São Paulo. The action occurred concurrently with the creation and expansion of the subway works in the region in the 1970s, where there is now a blue line of the subway, north-south, across the city of São Paulo, a blue line station, with one of the exits of this station precisely at the Liberdade Square. It is the station Liberdade, less than 300 meters away from the Igreja dos Enforcados, where there is the cult of Chaguinhas. So, this chapel, where there is the cult of Chaguinhas, and where is the Cemitério dos Aflitos Cemetery. In the capital of São Paulo, this mix of elements comprise a decades-long series of disputes culminating in intense conflict in 2020 regarding the meanings of the collective memory of the neighborhood and the struggle of different movements for the right to the memory. The relationship with the layers of memory of local occupation, the conflictive relationship of the Asian trade community and the Igreja dos Aflitos, the relationship between the government and the subway enterprise of São Paulo and the excavations in the neighborhood, the intense dispute of toponyms like Largo da Liberdade, Praça da Liberdade, Praça da Liberdade Japão, Praça da Liberdade África do Japão, so Liberty Square, Japan Liberty Square, Japan Africa Liberty Square nowadays. The material preservation of the Capela dos Aflitos is squeezed and poorly cared for between buildings, as well as the recognition of the cult of Chaguinhas as intangible cultural heritage, and ultimately the constitution of the Union of Friends of the Capela dos Aflitos, a UNANCA, União dos Amigos da Capela dos Aflitos movement, a center for devotees, researchers, and activists that becomes the organization responsible for defending the interests of the Black and indigenous memory of the region, requesting from the government the construction of a memorial of the Capela dos Aflitos. The fourth case, Saracura, Bexiga, Bela Vista. This place in the 19th century, a view of this place close to the Saracura River, and nowadays as Bexiga or Bela Vista in São Paulo. The Saracura region near Liberdade, whose toponymy is due to the stream, is a floodplain area historically populated by enslaved people and escaped or freed Black individuals. Recent disputes around the politics of collective memory and anti-racism consist with aspects of previous stories. The region where the neighborhood is today, Bexiga, is also one of the oldest areas of São Paulo, created in the 16th century. What became known as Chácara do Bexiga, Bexiga Place, as you can see, was a floodplain area, and that already in the 19th century worried the government as an area of aquilombamento, of escaped slaves, rebels, and people accused of crimes by the bushes, known as capoeiras, near the Saracura River and Anhangabaú River, two important rivers downtown São Paulo. The transformations of the Bexiga region and the accompanying process of social change in São Paulo led to significant changes in the territory and surroundings throughout the 19th century, which intensified after the abolition in 1888. And the institution of the Republican coup d'etat in 1889 as temporal landmarks. The state and private sponsorship of the arrival of Italian immigrants who start to coexist with the local working population that were black, descendants of formerly enslaved people, as well as the proximity to the factories of the west and the center of the city, give to this place a proletarian profile, a proletarian neighborhood profile to the locality. The urban reorganization that led to the opening of Avenida Paulista, Paulista Avenue, one of the most famous places in São Paulo, and also the Morro dos Ingleses. Avenida Paulista is above this landscape nowadays, and Morro dos Ingleses created an immediate proximity between the proletarian class and the region of services for the bourgeois class of São Paulo and abroad. However, the set of public spaces, Bexiga, Paulista, Bela Vista, also called as Bela Vista neighborhood, was from the beginning a proletarian neighborhood occupied mainly by immigrants and freed slaves. The channeled and buried rivers of the city, among them the Saracura River, also modified the urban landscape, but not the concern of the government in the 19th century and also in the 20th century to socialize, sanitize a region seen with historical distrust due to abundant presence of black people and all sorts of prejudice associated with their existence. One of the most important works on this topic that deals directly with the political struggles of memory and practices of erasure permeated by prejudice and racial discrimination is that of the indigenous historian José Angatu, as known as Carlos Ferreira dos Santos. His book, Nem Tudo Era Italiano, São Paulo e Pobreza, from 1890 up to 1950. The author, José Angatu, discusses in detail the meanings assumed by the ideology of progress and hygienism in the transformations of areas of the city in the late 19th century and early 20th centuries. Floodplains, such as those of Saracura, were places of work for washerwomen, resting places for horses, and cheaper residence districts for domestic workers. First of all, it was the location of native populations in São Paulo. Subsequently, washerwomen, herb dealers like this man in the front of the book, and the front page of the book. So he's a herb man in a public market in São Paulo. Herb dealers, merchants from distant regions, inhabitants of low-cost housing, workers, mostly black, known as caboclos. They are descendants of indigenous people in the mestiçage with European descendants, and caipiras, rural people, and pretos, old black men, pretos velhos, old black men, occupying for decades the same space that the city despised and feared. This image of a region of experience of life disqualified and feared by the government has a colonial and racist origin, which is grounded in the history of slaveholding in São Paulo. The bibliography reference consulted indicate the formation of quilombos or aquilombamento process in the Bexiga region since the 19th century near the Saracura River, with something similar occurring in other regions later considered as black territories of São Paulo, neighborhoods called Glicério, Liberdade, Barra Funda, Pix, and many others. Many other areas considered in a hospital near the floodplains, from which the black and poor population was gradually expelled and pressured to find cheaper and farther housing. The experience of the black population after the abolition also made the Bela Vista region, this region, where Bexiga is located, a renowned landscape marked by popular collective housing, villages, and tenements, places of residence of the working class, which could thus be employed closer to the city center, having access to the services of the region. This class has gender and color. Black men and black women, workers and craftsmen of different services, international and national immigrants, non-black workers, white and black women employed in factories and in domestic service over the following decades. The ideas about aquilombamento do Bexiga and the memory of the tenements resurfaced in 2022 when, due to actions to build the Orange Line, this line of the subway of São Paulo, one of the stations initially called 14 bis, after the square of the same name. 14 bis is a homage to the airplane of Alberto Santos Dumont in downtown São Paulo. It was the name of his airplane, and is the name of a square that is close to the Bexiga and where is this subway station. As we can see in the picture, the movement is demanding metrô sem apagamento histórico, a subway without historical erasure, and permanência das pessoas que moram nesse lugar junto com o patrimônio histórico da cidade. So the idea to make the conviviality with the cultural heritage, the cultural historical heritage, with the memory of people that has lived in this place since different decades. And it is the memory of the black and indigenous people. It is the memory of the poor workers that lived in this place, in the tenements and workhouse of the working class of São Paulo. So, the ideas about the aquilombamento do Bexiga and the memory of the tenements resurfaced in 2022 when, due to actions to build this Orange Line of São Paulo subway, one of the stations, initially called 14 bis, after the square of the same name, was planned, ignoring the proximity to Bexiga, to the Saracura River, and to the black territory, indigenous territory, experienced throughout the 20th century with the presence of the cordão carnavalesco Vai-Vai, later Escola de Samba Vai-Vai in the region. These facts lead to a series of conflicts and disputes, including the loss of the Samba School's headquarters in the late 2021 due to the creation of the subway line. Again, governments, subway works, excavations, and discoveries of artifacts of African and indigenous material culture on the one hand, and on the other hand, real estate market exploitation interests with urban remodeling to erect buildings for classes different from the traditional income standard in the neighborhood, generated and contentious, ongoing public debate on respect for collective memory, anti-racism, and the organization of social movements, such as the Mobiliza Saracura Vai Vai movement that we are seeing some pictures and some symbols. Yeah? The first symbol, Saracura Vai Vai, in an orange picture, is the image of a Sankofa, demanding idea of an African heritage. The second picture is one of the actions of this movement to call people to the assembly, to participate of march, and also to demand the idea of it is possible to have the subway line. They are not against the subway line, but it is possible to have an historical station of subway line, not 14 bis, but a station called Saracura Vai Vai, with different aspects that can tell to people, to teach to people what was this place called Saracura, Bexiga, and his black history, indigenous history, working class history in that place. And the third image is the proposition of the movement. Não somos contra o metrô, somos contra o apagamento histórico. We are not against the subway station, we are against the historical erasure. Né? So, we would like the estação Saracura Vai Vai. So, the Mobiliza Saracura Vai Vai movement. Its first meeting took place in 2022, May 2022, and it takes responsibility for organizing residents, researchers, white people, black people, descendants of native people, anti-racist organizations, and those interested in the dispute for the collective memory of the territory of Bexiga as an urban quilombo, whose memory must be preserved and updated for the struggle for territorial, environmental, and housing rights at the present time. The movement first demanded that name of the subway station be changed from 14 bis to Saracura Vai Vai, and pressed this demand with the cultural heritage agencies and the municipal and state government. At the time of this paper was right, and also nowadays this is an ongoing struggle. We have some links of all these issues and movements I talk about, and also we have some links to the social media of Quilombo Saracura, Saracura Vai Vai, from Unanca, Capela dos Aflitos, also the Pretos Novos. That is very interesting, important to follow. To finish, these 4 cases narrated above deal with struggles for citizenship rights that have occurred in recent years and are still in dispute in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, and involved in incomplete process which deserve to be studied in a sustained manner. From the perspective of this study, sociological analysis challenged the disputes for the collective memory of subalternized groups, which aim to broaden the experience of rights and their anti-racist struggle. The research on these contemporary disputes of anti-racist collective memory in cities, such as São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, is also justified by theoretical components understanding the struggle for social, civil, and political rights as part of the struggle for collective memory, and for different experiences to be narrated and transmitted to the present and future time. When it comes to violent experience and insubordination, we must also ask about their meanings for Black life and Indigenous life. One research strategy is to have on the horizon the debate on social experience, anti-racism, and collective memory, with contributions already addressed prevalence and augmented with the following reflections. The social process involving the rediscovery of the Cais do Valongo and Cemitério dos Pretos Novos, the cultural heritage policies, and the organization of movements and social institutions around them, the political disputes and debates with the government and private markets involving the Memorial dos Aflitos at Liberdade and Saracura Vai Vai movement at Bexiga need to be understood according to the composition of the social movements and their activists, forms of organization, and activation of reference frameworks of the anti-racist collective memory that they trigger. That is what I initially tried to present in this working paper and also in this lecture, and intend to continue researching for the next years based on my experience with Priscila. Muito obrigado, muitas graças.